Hello everybody and welcome to this, the first in our series of podcasts from the Goodwood Revival. Now you may be wondering why the man on my right here is dressed as a cricketer. That is because Marino Franchitti is playing cricket this afternoon at the Goodwood Revival cricket match. He's just been batting, he scored some runs, but he's now out. Marino, welcome.
Thank you, it's good to be here. Yeah, not my normal attire, not my normal game, that's for sure, but this year I actually got to score more than one run, so I'm pretty happy with that.
I always think that cricket could be more dangerous than driving racing cars.
Yeah, I was just talking to Lord March about that. I said, didn't need a helmet? And he went, no, you should be fine. I was thinking, well, I think I probably need a helmet. But yeah, it's so much fun getting to play here is such an honour. I'm not a massive cricket fan, but when you realise the history of this place and the rules and everything that were created here, it's a special place to play.
Now we're going to go back to the beginning of your career and talk to you about the journey you've made through motor racing. But first of all though, let's just mention that this weekend we're celebrating the Écurie Écosse team, which as a Scotsman you should be quite excited about.
I'm massively excited about it. As a Scotsman, Écurie Écosse achieved so much, you know, to win their last Le Mans overall in 1957, to be celebrating that this year and all that went before and since is very exciting. I'm getting to drive a C-Type this weekend, which is very exciting. My brother and I actually took it down the A3 recently when we were at Joe McCarry's, and Joe's like, there's a couple of things that need looked at. Will you two give us a report and then you can have your cup of tea? So it's a wonderful little car. It's very exciting to be a part of this. I'm looking forward to seeing all the tartan on the grid, and this car that I'm driving was Ninian Sanderson's car, so it's a beautiful little thing.
Just so you know, everybody, at the Revival this weekend, if you want to be on the grid, you will have had to wear tartan. Okay. We don't really get, nationalistic racing teams anymore, do we? It's slightly frowned upon, but Scotland has such an amazing history. Écurie Écosse reminds you of all the great drivers that little country's produced, doesn't it?
It does, and not just Écurie Écosse, but then it brings to mind for me the Border Reivers and all these other little teams, even up to this day and age. To see my friend Graham Brunton, his Formula Ford team, just competing nationally, but with a couple of really fast young Scottish drivers. It's an incredible lineage that we have, and the success we've had on track is pretty special. And if you look back to the Écurie Écosse stuff, some of the drivers that were there and what they achieved, just unbelievable. It was almost like a university. I mean, we're talking about Jackie Stewart, Jerry Birrell, Ron Flockhart, you name it. Everybody was there. And obviously Jackie's elder brother, Écurie Écosse, was a superstar.
Yeah.
So it was, I think it really set the stall out for Scottish drivers and created a lot of what has gone since.
Okay, let's talk about you now. Take us right back to the beginning. How did you get into becoming a professional racing driver?
It was interesting. We were not a wealthy family. When my brother started karting, we had the means to do that to a certain level, and my dad will never admit to anyone, including my mother, what he put into our karting. But I was 5 years younger than Dario, so the focus was certainly on what he was doing, as it should have been at the high level he was doing it. Karting, by the time I was ready to really get into it, we were really struggling financially as a family. So I stopped racing for a few years, and then I was just determined to start again. And through the help of a lot of people in my family, my brother Dario, my mum, my sister, my dad, that allowed me to get started just in some club racing. And I was just determined. People didn't want me, my family didn't want me to race. They wanted me to do anything but I was determined to do it. And then from there I managed to cobble together a few 1600 races in Formula Ford, then a little bit of Vauxhall Junior, didn't have the budget to do it properly, then a year of Formula Ford on a shoestring budget, which was a great learning process for hard knocks, but not ideal. And then the big step came for me when Porsche Cars Great Britain had a junior program in British GT. And my brother always said to me, to be a professional driver, you have to be paid. So the moment someone's going to pay you, whatever that is, you do that. And I was at a crossroads where I didn't have the budget to go to continue in Formula Ford, to do anything. And Porsche were offering to give a 21-year-old me a brand new Porsche, pay me wages, give me a fabulous program, and that was the big break. That was the big opportunity.
Were you always absolutely confident that you had the talent? You clearly had the commitment, you clearly had the desire, but of course you knew at the same time that you had this older brother who was very talented.
Yeah, it's funny, a lot of people might look from the outside and think about a sibling rivalry, but it's never been like that with Dario and I. He's my best friend. We're very supportive of each other, and I never looked at it like that. People from the outside maybe looked at it like that. I think one of the big things for me was that because of my life around racing tracks, people expected me to be a complete driver instantly, just on the track and be able to do everything, which was really silly. And I almost believed the same myself, and it wasn't until I said, right, why should you know everything? You need to learn. And when I had that change in mindset, then I started making progress. Did I believe? I've never believed I have the talent. I always believe I have to work very, very hard. Talent takes you so far, but hard work's what really gets it done. And I'm always happy when someone's faster than me, because it gives me an opportunity to learn. And some of the teammates I've had in my career, it's been fabulous to compete with them and to learn from them and to work with them to improve myself. And that never stops. And the day you think it stops, you need to stop, because you're always learning.
Now, that opportunity you got with Porsche was a huge thing, actually, wasn't it? Because it's a very competitive series. All those Porsche series we've seen over the years, they really are competitive. I mean, people look at it and they say, oh yeah, it's just a 911, but actually it's really hard racing.
Well, this was British GT, so we were racing against TVRs and Dodge Vipers and different things, and there was a certain amount of opportunity to develop the car. So it was really good for me to have that, to have a teammate like Kelvin Burt with his experience and his speed. I mean, I've driven with few faster than Kelvin. It was an amazing opportunity, and the team Par that ran the car were very professional, and it was pretty close to a finishing school for me. I was very inexperienced in reality, but it helped me, it accelerated my learning. And driving that Porsche, as you say, there's Porsches racing everywhere, and that allowed me that year to do a race at Zandvoort and an open series, 24 hours at Spa.
Yeah,
it started opening doors for me.
Fantastic. How ambitious were you as regards getting to Formula One? Was that ever part of your plan or not?
It was one of those things that you almost felt you had to say that's what you wanted to do. I certainly would have liked to have driven a Formula 3 car, because people I've worked with since say that my style would have suited it well. But when I was a kid, in fact, my hero as a child is on the cricket pitch there, captaining the other team, Derek Bell. I wanted to be Derek Bell. I wanted to win Le Mans. My first conscious memory of motorsport, outside of watching my brother karting and my friends racing at Ingolstadt and things, is Derek winning Le Mans in Rothman's Porsche, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And I met him when I was 7, and it was just like he has been and since then, and continues to be, my hero.
Le Mans is such a difficult race to win, isn't it? It's such a challenge.
It's difficult just to finish it. I've had terrible runs at Le Mans every single time I've done it. I've never had a clean run at Le Mans. What keeps me going is the fact that Dan Gurney had terrible runs up until 67 when he won it. So that keeps me going. But it's interesting. I've got a love-hate relationship with that race. It's my ultimate dream is to win Le Mans. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but the runs I've had there, it fills me with dread sometimes of what's going to happen next. It's just not been good. So hopefully one year I can get it together there, but there's other things in my career that have made up for that to a degree, but it's still that one that everyone wants to get.
Okay, looking back again, I mean, is there anything you would have done differently?
Yes, many things. Regrets, I would say, there's one big one, which is, again, 2001 Porsche AG put me into the Super Cup car, their guest car at Hockenheim, on the old Hockenheim.
Yeah.
This is the days before simulators and all of that. So I turn up at Hockenheim. Roland Kusmal is my engineer. I mean, it was big time. They took me to Weissach before we tested. It went well. I jump in this car, and for the first 5 laps, I'm in the top 5. I'm following Jörg Bergmeister, the champion that year. I have no idea what I'm doing, where I'm going, and I'm way above what I should be doing. Instead of learning and taking my time, I went too hard too quickly, caught the gravel on the exit of turn 1, stuck it in the wall on the inside of turn 1, damaged the car, damaged the engine, and for the rest of the weekend the car was just as it should have been after my crash, really beat up and just not fast. And that was my opportunity to, they were looking at me as a proper Porsche AG factory driver.
Yeah.
And I made a mess of that, but c'est la vie.
Tell us how you deal with a situation like that. I mean, how do you recover from that kind of thing, in the sense that you know you've blown it?
I was quite naive at the time. I didn't really think about it until afterwards of what it all meant. I was just going from race to race and taking every opportunity I could. You just make sure that the next time you get that, you approach it slightly differently, give yourself a little bit more time. But there's so much pressure. People will say to you, go out and just feel your way in, but they want to see that lap time. It's black and white on the table. They want to see that speed. So while I would have approached it slightly differently, I was still just trying to do the best job I could. So I would say in the future, when I got those opportunities, I was a little bit more, I was more experienced, and I was just able to deal with them better.
Let's talk about the present day, shall we? Where does Marino Franchitti stand right now on the career path?
Well, I think, as my brother said the other day, him and McNish were talking about something. We're not over the hill, but we can certainly see get a good view of the other side. Age doesn't really come into driving anymore. We see a lot of older drivers winning big races, performing well, fitness and everything else, all of the modern technology we have. That doesn't make the difference. What makes the difference is what's inside, and if you're willing to push yourself right to the edge. I still have that. One day that'll go. When that is, I don't know. But until then, I want to keep racing. The 4GT program ended last year. I've been racing with Mazda in the long races with the DPI in America this year. That program's paused, let's say, at the moment, while Yost take it over. I want to be racing back in America and IMSA. That's my home. It's weird when I come back to Europe, while I'm a British driver, I've raced so long in North America that it's foreign for me being here. And I've really missed racing in the States. I've had a decent amount of success there, and that's being in DPI especially is what I'm focusing on for the future.
Tell me about the appeal of racing in America, because everybody who has and does race in America absolutely loves it. Right up to Fernando Alonso, who came back from Indianapolis raving about it. What is it?
There's many things. I think there's still, to this day, it's getting harder and harder, like everywhere in motorsport, but there's still, if you're performing, you get the opportunities there. There's the camaraderie in the paddock. There's a lot less pit garages in America. So instead of going hospitality, pit garage, onto the track, pit garage, back to hospitality, and just living in this bubble.
That's interesting, yeah.
In Europe, in America, you're going into pit lane, out of pit lane, you're eating in the same place. Everyone sort of just interacts more, and the racing is no easier on track, that's for sure. But the camaraderie and your life off of the track is, for me personally, much more enjoyable. And as a place to be, I could never understand when I first went to America how some people said, I've never left North America. But then you go to Yosemite or you see what they have in that country, and you don't have to. It's a great place to live and work. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to live, I know that, yeah. Okay, so here we are at Goodwood Revival. Tell us what you're doing this week. I know you're in the C-Type for the Ecurie Ecosse Tribute, which is in itself would be enough for me. Yeah, me too. This weekend, we have a full card, dance card for the family. My wife, Holly, who I met here at the ball in 2005, is racing in LM17, the Aston Martin Ulster. In the Brooklands Trophy, I'm driving a A35 in the St Mary's. and our 4-year-old son is racing a J40 in the Setterington Cup. So it's I just can't wait for this weekend to get going. It's my favourite weekend of the year, I think. It's such a lovely place to be, and yeah, I'll always look forward to being here.
And Dario is also going to be out on track demonstrating. I think he's going to do a lap in the van wall.
I know he's driving something. I don't know what, but he's been looking at his tartan, so he's up to something.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. Actually, just before we go, is there, if your racing was to stop right now, say you just decide to quit, you've got a young family, what would you look back on as being the best time of this career that you've been very lucky to have made a living from driving racing cars all these years?
I would say there's a couple in fact, there's 3 that stand out. 2012 at Petit Le Mans, sharing a car with my brother, just the 2 of us. We had a teammate who was the gentleman driver, but really the 2 of us were focused on the car, and we finished second. That was, in hindsight, not getting to do that again with him was very special. 2013, winning Sebring in class when my son was born while I was there, that was special. The last 20 minutes and the victory at Sebring overall in 2014 has to be the highlight, just because as much the end result as that 20 minutes, I've never driven harder, I've never been on the edge more of having a massive shunt, and it was so on an edge, and it was one of those where you're not consciously aware of what you're doing, and the end result, that was pretty special.
Sebring's a tough place too, isn't it?
It is. It was again, Derek, the morning after we won in 2014, I had an email from Derek saying, you can win Sebring, you can win anywhere.
Wow.
He said that he'd never won there, and he said that's a special one. So yeah, as I say, while Le Mans would be the ultimate, for me, I'm pretty happy with my lot.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Right, that's Marino Franchitti, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with another of our podcasts from the Goodwood Revival weekend.